Last night I watched a lecture, actually it was like a workshop on lucid dreaming. I learned 3 techniques on how to test whether you're in a dream in order to go lucid. The first test was to count the number of fingers you have on your hand. So let's count. I'm going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it seems as though I'm awake. Hello, Zero Books readers and viewers. In this video, I'll be looking into the void. I'll be considering the nihilism and/or pessimism of Thomas Ligotti and Eugene Thacker.
What are you staring at?
I'm reading an ebook.
What is it about?
It's called In the Dust of This Planet, and it's about how horror writers presented a challenge or a problem that philosophers couldn't overcome or really even accept.
Why did you give me frozen peas for breakfast?
What?
Cereal a while.
In his book, In the Dust of This Planet, Thacker describes how Descartes stumbled upon the atmosphere of horror and how he unfortunately and definitively backed away from it. Thacker writes, "We see Descartes pushing his doubt to an extreme point, a point at which no knowledge is possible because nothing is for certain. One thought is as good or as bad as another. Everything is relative, arbitrary, haphazard, pointless. Subject to continual deception, prey to the cunning of unknown entities, dismembered and insubstantial, Descartes has led himself to stand on the precipice of philosophy and peer over the edge." Descartes' meditations are a series of arguments that apply rigorous skepticism to even common sense beliefs. For instance, the belief in an external world. He puts everything to the test in order to discover what, if anything, he can't doubt. He sets off in search for an undoubtable foundation that can then support other claims to knowledge. And a foundation is provided by Descartes, as he realizes that the phrase, "I think therefore I am," can't be doubted, even if we conceive of the universe of thought and experience as an illusion created by an evil and deceitful God. Descartes writes, "Let him deceive me as much as he wishes. He will never bring it about that I am nothing as long as I think I am something." Having weighed up everything adequately, it must finally be stated that this proposition, "I am, I exist," is necessarily true whenever it is stated by me or conceived of in my mind.
Why did you give me frozen peas for breakfast?
For Thacker, the affirmation of subjectivity is where Descartes goes wrong. But in terms of argumentation or of logic, the claim, "I think therefore I am," is sound as long as one does not freight the word "I" with any positive content. When Descartes asserted, "I think therefore I am," all that he affirmed was that things appeared and that there was some sort of contradictory negation that was necessary for these things to appear. His subject was just an empty place where random images were projected. But this was not enough for him. Descartes' doubt remained.
There's something wrong with the Captain Crunch.
So the second test for whether or not you're in a dream is to try to pinch your nose like this and then breathe. And if you can breathe through your nose while you're pinching, then you're asleep and you're not actually in the real world. And that's the way to become lucid. You do some reality testing by trying to breathe through your pinched nose. I cleared my eardrums. A little congested. In order to overcome his doubt, Descartes turned to Christianity, specifically to St. Anselm's ontological argument for the existence of God. As per Wikipedia, the ontological argument from Anselm, that Descartes presents in a slightly modified form, can be summarized as follows. It is conceptual truth, or so to speak, true by definition, that God is a being than which nothing greater can be imagined. That is, the greatest possible being that can be imagined. The argument, it goes like this. God exists as an idea in the mind. A being that exists as an idea in the mind and in reality is, other things being equal, greater than a being that exists only as an idea in the mind. Thus, if God exists only as an idea in the mind, then we can imagine something that is greater than God, that is, a greatest possible being that does exist. But we cannot imagine something that is greater than God, for it is a contradiction to suppose that we can imagine a being greater than the greatest possible being that can be imagined. Therefore, God exists. This argument seems to beg the question. That is, it starts by assuming what it sets out to prove, namely, that the concept of a greatest being, a being whom no other can surpass, is coherent, reasonable, and a justifiable concept. However, it does not follow from the fact that we can, upon reflection, recall such a concept that the concept is coherent. Some of us may have heard of the idea of a squared circle, or a cold heat, or a great many other contradictory and incoherent notions. The fact that we have a name and a definition for a concept does not mean that the concept is sound. And if we try to render our notion of God, to think through what it means to be something other than which there can be nothing greater, we will find that we are set back to the same problem we started with, namely that we have nothing but an emptiness or lack to consider.
Maybe we should talk about Descartes' meditations on first philosophy again.
Well, I don't remember doing it in the first place, Father.
Descartes wanted to doubt everything in order to discover if there was something that would ground his knowledge. He wanted to know what was true, what could be known rather than merely believed. So he set about to test his beliefs. The first thing Descartes doubted was the truth of his own perception. People often say that they'll believe it when they see it, but Descartes couldn't believe that what you see is what you get because he experienced moments when his eyes deceived him. For instance, when you put a stick into a puddle of water, it will appear bent when it is really straight. Worse yet, Descartes had dreams that seemed real to him, like he was really seeing things. He couldn't be sure when he was awake and when he was dreaming. Even worse, he couldn't even be sure the clear and definitive ideas in his head, the idea that 1 + 1 = 2, for example, was necessarily true. The problem was that, while it seemed to him that the rules of logic and math were true, he could be being deceived. It was possible that an evil demon or a mad god was tricking him into thinking things that were absurd. According to Thacker, the possibility of an evil demon was something that Descartes could never quite escape from. In fact, for Thacker, the truth of the demon was the one truth that the philosopher can never either accept or escape. The one exception, according to Thacker, was the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. According to him, all thought always devolves upon its own limits, and any attempt towards positive knowledge always turn around into its opposite. That is, Schopenhauer knew that the philosophers can't escape the demon. For Schopenhauer, the world outside our perception, or Kant's noumenal world, is not just a place relegated to darkness, but is a supernatural horror. The world as it is outside of our experience is not merely indifferent to our existence, but indifferent to all reason, causes, and motives.
Father,
Yeah.
I'm pretty damn sure we're lost. Where are we, do you know?
The truth of existence is irrational, unreasonable, and awful.
Father,
Yeah.
we're lost.
The third way to test whether or not you're dreaming, the third reality test, is to read. To read some text, close your eyes or look away, and then turn back and try to read the same text again. If it says the same thing the second time, then you're awake. If it doesn't, if the text changes, then either you're looking at an animation on a screen or you're dreaming. Well, what's the printout say? Because that's like, well, what about that?
The movie we're going to be watching.
No, wait. That.
Oh, welcome to our brand new show, Movie Town. Yeah, how's that?
So, Jim, what am I doing
How
here?
did I go? Oh, I dropped my mail on my letter from President Barack Obama.
President Barack Obama
Look
wrote
at
you a
that.
letter?
Yes, he did. I haven't opened it yet, but I'm sorry, that just dropped out of my clip here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You were asking me a question. It is kind of curiosity, though. I mean, why would he be writing me? I barely know him. We both watched a film together the other night. And I think that's the movie we're going to discuss.
Let me look at my notes. I have some notes here.
It was Paul McCartney's Vanilla Sky.
Paul McCartney's Vanilla Sky.
And that was he wrote that song to play as the theme song to his film, Vanilla Sky, which he wrote and directed. We watched, the film by a Spanish filmmaker, Alejandro Amenábar.
What's his name?
Alejandro Amenábar.
Alejandro Amenábar. You're right.
Alejandro Amenábar.
And he did the film Abre los Ojos.
Yes, he did Abre los Ojos,
Ojos,
which was a science fiction film that Tom Cruise purchased, remade into an American film. Mm-hmm. Cameron Crowe, who directed him, and Jerry Maguire took it on. And our first movie is a foreign film directed by Alejandro Amenábar.
Well, I have written down here that I think the film Open Your Eyes is wrestling with a central epistemological and ontological problem, namely the search for a ground or an ultimate reality.
Oh.
Epistemology is the study of how we know things.
We all know what piss is.
Can I tell you about a dream I had?
Sure.
I was in a helicopter with my family, mm-hmm. and I was looking at my phone, mm-hmm. and they had this parrot. They're all there, and we're in this helicopter, and Ben opens the door to the helicopter, and Miriam's like, Doug, help me out. No, don't do that. That won't work, she says. And Ben's like, I'm going to let the parrot go and let him fly up, and then he'll come back to the helicopter. And she's like, no, that's a bad idea. And I look up from my phone. I don't know, I'm probably playing Plants vs. Zombies or checking Twitter or whatever I'm doing, not paying attention.
Yeah.
And Ben reaches out the side of the helicopter, lets go, and the parrot's wings are just ribbons. Yeah. It doesn't have real wings.
Oh.
It's like, it's one of these breeds of parrot that's like not a flying bird, it's what do they call that? Like the penguin.
Yeah.
Flightless fowl.
Flightless fowl.
Yeah, flightless bird. Mm-hmm. It's a flightless parrot. We should have known that was its breed, because it just drops like a stone and smashes on the ground. And the thing is, the parrot had loved everyone in the family, and everyone had loved the parrot, and everyone was just devastated. So what is that about?
Were you also devastated?
I was sad because I had been looking at my phone.
Yeah.
But I figure what it's about is it's just telling me I need to focus more on work.
No. No.
Thanks for watching this Zero Books video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to this channel and click on the notifications bell so that you'll be alerted whenever we release a new video. You should also consider supporting us on Patreon. Our patrons get access to our Inside Zero Books podcast every week and can get access to the Zero Books Book Club and help us to continue making online content from the left.